Welcome back to LGBT Snapshots. I am your host, Chad. We are a little bit delayed in our production. We still have the Wizard of Oz stuff coming out, hopefully a little later this week. Our heads are just spinning with everything that's been happening with the Pulse shooting in Orlando. So this is a very non-traditional post. I usually record in front of a camera. This time it's just me on my cell phone, but I wanted to share with you something that I wrote today. What is happening today will be the history that we talk of tomorrow. Truthfully, America's history is full of brutal attacks, so many that we can barely remember some of what happened only weeks ago, no less ones that happened years ago. But some are so terrible, so bloody, or so unique that they find a way of imprinting on our long-term community consciousness. You may not remember Ruby Ridge, or the Washington, D.C. sniper, or Hans Mill, or Fort Hood, or the Green River serial killer, or Andersonville, or even Trayvon Martin, but you do remember 9/11, Pearl Harbor, Matthew Shepard, the Challenger explosion, Stonewall, and Sandy Hook. Added to that list, those events which will imprint upon our community consciousness, I believe, will be the Pulse. With all of the horrible mass shootings that just keep taking place, with it being all almost commonplace, we just grow accustomed somehow to the terrible. It isn't that we don't care, it isn't that we don't feel, it's that it's too much. It's too much for our brains to process. Picture your day-to-day routine. Pick any place. In line at the grocery store, start with your children at a public park, dropping off your daughter at school, going to the movies, sitting at a table, waiting for the food you ordered at your local restaurant. In any one of these places, a man with a gun could walk in. His only intent is to kill as many people as possible. He ignores cries for help or people cowering in corners, begging not to be seen. He just shoots and shoots and shoots. We watch violent movies all the time. That violence is okay to our minds, generally because we know it's fake. We know it's makeup and special effects. But in a situation like this, there is blood and brains and bone and body, and it's not fake. Those lives were cut short. Boyfriends holding hands, sons texting their mothers goodbye, people rushing for every exit. This is the world that we live in right now. Gun violence is happening in every corner of this country. California, South Carolina, Florida, the Northeast and Southwest, and every place in between. It's horrifying and terrifying. It's only been about 60 hours since the Pulse shootings. We've attended vigils, we've learned about the attacker, we've seen the names of the victims, we hugged our friends and shed some tears and lost some sleep. But this time something must change. How could we have let this happen after Virginia Tech and Fort Hood and Sandy Hook? How can we let this happen without changing things? The country seems divided politically, as it always does. One side is crying out for the stricter immigration reform, going so far as to suggest a ban on all Muslims from American soil. The other side is calling for gun reform, not for taking guns away, but for making mandatory background checks, mental health evaluations, and perhaps waiting periods before guns are purchased. I don't understand why things aren't changing. I can't comprehend it. In Salt Lake City here, I work as an on-call crisis responder, and since the Pulse shooting, I've been called out twice in my own city to respond to the scenes of robberies where guns have been drawn and lives have been threatened. Twice since the Pulse shooting. Angry men who pointed guns at innocent people and made demands. No one was killed in these situations, but in both of them, the victims went home with deep emotional scars that may take years to recover from. As I type this, read this, several survivors of the Pulse shootings are fighting for their lives in hospital beds. Mothers are going to their sons' apartments and cleaning up their belongings, their laptops with unfinished projects, their journals which now have a last entry written in them. Bosses are cleaning off the desks of their dead employees, putting their family photographs and coffee mugs into cardboard boxes. Funeral directors are preparing coffins and urns, and memorial halls are being booked out. It's Tuesday, and tomorrow is Wednesday, and my heart still hurts, and I don't know what to do to make sure that this never happens again. We will be back tomorrow with some new content. In the meantime, take time to heal or pray or be with your loved ones, whatever it is that makes you feel good during this tough time. And we'll be with you soon. Thanks.